It was just 2 weeks ago, Vice President Joe Biden trumpeted the White House launch of the Campaign to Cut Waste, a waste prevention initiative for the president's 2009 stimulus programs. Take a listen.
There's nothing like accountability, man. It sure focuses your attention. I never thought I'd pay this much attention to Recovery Board. I never thought I'd pay this much attention to a single piece of legislation passed, and then the president announced to the whole world, Sheriff Joe's responsible for this.
Sheriff Joe's responsible for this. That was before taxpayers realized they had sunk $535 million into the now bankrupt solar energy company Solyndra as part of that same waste-free stimulus that the vice president also touted. Take a listen again.
Which is why it's so important we invest in Solyndra and invest in what Solyndra is doing, not just to get us through today, but to power our way to a much brighter tomorrow.
All right, Sheriff Joe, a much brighter tomorrow. Here now to react and discuss are my freedom fighters, Fox business anchor and my colleague Charles Payne, radio host Nancy Skinner, and Amelia Antonetti, AMA Productions CEO. Nancy, I want to start with you first. Joe was well-intended when he said he'd be the sheriff of the stimulus packages. He didn't do a good job, did he?
Well, I wish we had Sheriff Cheney watching the $30 billion that went missing in the wars in Iraq. We're talking about $535 million. But to the substance of your question, yes, the overall number of waste and fraud with the Recovery Act was 0.06. $535 million. This loan, Solyndra, started under the Bush administration, which was bolstered and strengthened as an investment by Obama. Yes, that did fail when silicon prices fell through the roof.
All right.
But overall, 0.06 waste and fraud is great.
Okay. Amelia, I don't care if this was done by Republicans or Democrats. It was not done by people like you who know how to invest dollars. It was done by politicians trying to do favors for groups.
Absolutely. And politicians don't know what ROI means, return on investment. This was the worst return I have ever heard of, and this is exactly why business communities are not moving in their own businesses, because of this nonsense.
Should these stimulus programs and TARP, you and I have talked about this on Varney till we're blue in the face, have been passed in the first place?
Absolutely not. And they do know ROI, Amelia, except they don't care about the return to taxpayers. Now, if they're paying off cronies, if they're paying off political donors, if they're adhering to an ideology.
If they're paying off labor unions.
If they're paying off unions, they understand return on investment for their core constituents. And I got to tell you, the waste, fraud, and abuse in this stimulus plan is going to be a lot more than this when the story is said.
Nancy, can the government ever be entrusted, no matter who's running it, whether it's Republicans or Democrats, to invest money in an economically prudent way, or will it always invest the people's money? Strike that. Spend the people's money in a politically expedient way.
This company, Solyndra, had raised $650 million in private capital before this investment was
Don't
made.
tell me you're going to defend the investment now.
The Germans, but the Germans and the Japanese have had an industrial policy, forward-looking, investing with companies in renewable energies, all kinds of different sectors. They're whipping the pants off of us.
Hold on a second. Japan has no natural resources. They don't have coal. They don't have natural gas. We could be the #1 producer of oil and natural gas in the world if we would sink the billions, the 16 billions that go into this alternative energy stuff every year.
Doesn't Joe Biden look ridiculous when he calls himself the sheriff and encourages people to invest in something that lost the taxpayers half a billion?
Absolutely looks ridiculous, and it makes them like they don't know how to do math. The president said, let's do math. Yes, let's do math. Let's do it together.
All right, let's do some Securities and Exchange Commission math. They've slammed a former Goldman Sachs employee with insider trading allegations. The SEC claims the former Goldman employee told his father of a shakeup in his division. And the SEC claims the father may have traded on that information, reaping a modest profit. Never mind that the SEC failed to catch Bernie Madoff, a thief in plain sight, nor did it regulate the subprime mortgage mess. Charles, does a lawsuit like this accomplish any good? It is the father, even an insider, regulable by the SEC, without getting too into the weeds.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. You know what? Listen, here's the thing. It's $57,000. Do they spend $400,000 or $500,000 defending themselves? Absolutely not. The SEC should be embarrassed and ashamed. You didn't even mention Enron. You didn't even mention WorldCom. Right. These giant behemoths under their nose. If they want to go after Goldman the corporation, not the son and the father.
Nancy, if somebody lost $57,000, should the SEC spend several times that to prosecute the person or to get it back? Is that a wise expenditure of government resources?
they decided that that was not, they weren't going to pursue that because of that. But a director of Goldman, they have targeted, and they want to catch it before it gets to a Bernie Madoff, especially because this guy focuses on exchange-traded dollars, where that guy over at USSB just blew $3 billion of their company's dollars because these are such high-priced assets. You accuse can people shoplift? Would you say because they only stole $200, forget about it? We're not going to prosecute.
I wouldn't send the army after them, though. That's what I wouldn't do.
Right,
I wouldn't send the army after them.
Amelia, let's talk big picture. Should this even be illegal? If I learn information that is truthful and accurate, why can't I use that information in making a decision?
No, I don't think so. This is between father and son, and again, what was actually spoken about was public knowledge. So I don't think there was any insider trading here at all. So I think this case is from beginning to end is just further proof that this whole system's corrupt.
Do you think that the SEC is doing this because they got caught with their pants down and all those things that you just ticked off so nicely? So they're picking on some little guy that might not even have the wherewithal with which to defend himself and trying to make an example out of him. Madoff cost billions and billions. Right. These people cost $57,000 in losses.
Judge, when I first started working on Wall Street, every building down there had about, at least every floor had a different brokerage firm on them. And, you know, they were small firms, one office, maybe 3 offices.
Right.
They were wiped out. The SEC wiped the entire industry out. All the little guys got kicked out because they were low-hanging fruit for the SEC. They never go after the big guys.
We have 30 seconds. Is the SEC on the right path, or do they need to improve their own record, Nancy Skinner?
The brokerage firm recorded the call for them, caught the guy. The guy left under an SEC threat of investigation. He was already going after him. This is where it starts, with guys like Minlin, and they end up like Madoffs. Yes, they're on the right track.
All right, I got you. Nancy Skinner, Charles Payne, Amelia Antonetti. It's a pleasure, guys. Thanks for joining us. Back with a history of